Good evening and welcome to the Yeshivot B'nai Akiva 34th annual dinner. Tonight we have three wonderful honorees and a wonderful program, including hearing from Harav Ratzon Arusi, who will give us divrei bracha, especially to our honoree Ephraim Nagar, who is a Talmid of his. I am now the president of Yeshivot B'nai Akiva, and here in America, American Friends of Yeshivot B'nai Akiva, that is, and I would like to tell you two things: why I became active in Yeshivot B'nai Akiva, and why I accepted the presidency of this organization. In order to illustrate to you what I had thought of when I joined, I think it would just be, rather than repetition, let me tell you and show you what I said back in 2007 when I was honored by this very organization. Yeshivot B'nai Akiva is a centrist Orthodox organization which appeals to me both personally and seems to focus in on the philosophy of Judaism under which I was raised. My parents, the month after I got married, they went on Aliyah. My mother just passed away a year ago, and she had lived there about 42 years. So we spent a lot of time in Jerusalem with my parents in an area which was predominantly occupied, in shul and so forth, by families who are part of Yeshivot B'nai Akiva. I've seen the product of the Yeshivot B'nai Akiva, and I found them to have adopted a hashkafa of a Zionist, a Torah Jew, and a strong nationalist Jew. And in each instance, they still carried with them the spark and the idealism which I think was inculcated in them by attending Yeshivot B'nai Akiva. These are the people who are going to run the country, and we want them to run it not only efficiently from a business point of view, but we also want them to put a good Torah perspective into it. And I think they both can be done together, and I think Yeshivot B'nai Akiva is doing the job in that respect. I can only tell you that what you just heard from 2007 has not changed till today. In fact, it has become stronger and more, and I'm more convinced that this is the way that we American Jews must pursue in order to help our brothers in Eretz Yisrael. This past year, at the time the new Knesset was elected, there are now 16 members of the Knesset who are graduates of various schools of Yeshivot B'nai Akiva. That is an unprecedented number. I think that we have to grow with the Yeshivot B'nai Akiva, and I hope that your coming here tonight will be a first and a giant step towards all of us recognizing the importance of this organization and supporting it to the best of our ability. Thank you.
If anyone in Jewish history can be a symbol of the love of learning Torah in Eretz Yisrael, it is Rabbi Akiva, who dedicated and sacrificed his life for Torah to make sure that it would be handed down to the students of the future. It is more than an honor for me, therefore, to be here tonight in support of American Friends of Yeshivot B'nai Akiva, and to be a link in the long historical chain of the Jewish people in enabling the next generation to study Torah and to excel in all areas of learning. My sister and I grew up as children in a family of Holocaust survivors and refugees who placed learning high on the agenda of our family priorities. Our parents, Aleihem HaShalom, Rabbi Naftali Ehrenberg and Judith Ehrenberg, each served as examples. My father loved to learn and would spend every spare minute he had doing so. There was always a pile of Sifrei Kodesh by his chair, on the dining room table, everywhere. He served as an editor of some important Sifrei Shelot Tshuvot, and I remember him as a little girl working late into the night, typing, literally cutting and pasting, which was a real feat way before anybody even knew about computers. My mother taught Pre-1A and Talmud Torah for many years. Her proudest moments were when her students rose to a new level, particularly students, young and old, who had difficulty grasping Hebrew or who had limited background, and under her tutelage were able to master it. After she passed away 2 years ago, we discovered a sheaf of letters of praise and admiration that she had treasured, which were from her students, their parents, and principals, thanking her for all that she had done to teach children who always were inspired by her to love to learn. We were taught early on what Eretz Yisrael means to the Jewish people, and simply absorbed how important it was to my parents and how deeply they loved Israel. Whenever they had the opportunity to travel overseas, which was not often, they would visit Israel. They went to the Kotel immediately after the Six-Day War in 1967. As survivors and refugees, they imbued us with the fact that because there is a state of Israel today where people live, study, and fight to keep it strong, we are free to live as Jews. Any letter that arrived from Israel, those old green aerograms from a cousin or aunt, was greeted with great excitement, especially those from my great-grandfather and from my father's Tante Sura, who lived in Ramat Gan, who was the only aunt he had left. She was the only one of 8 sisters to survive the Holocaust. We devoured anything on TV or in the papers about Israel, and we could never wait until we could visit again. All of this has been the driving force behind my work today at the World Jewish Congress and in all the positions I've had in the past in the Jewish community and in Jewish education. It is the cause of my will to educate the community, political leaders, civil servants, and young people about Israel and why it is so important to us and to the whole world. I'm lucky to have the opportunity to do this and to help spread the message of Israel and of our traditions. This is why I'm here tonight for the American Friends of Yeshivot B'nai Akiva. The students in our high schools, Yeshivot and Ulpanot, are the very soul of Israel today and the future generations that will build Israel and keep her strong. Because of the high level of scholarship they achieve in both secular and Jewish studies, they will succeed to keep Israel as a light unto the nations. They will be the academics, educators, businessmen, and government leaders in Israel tomorrow and will continue to make the Jewish people proud. I want to thank our dinner chairs, Harvey Kruger and Richard Stone, for all they have done to make tonight a success and for everything they do each day in so many capacities for Israel and the Jewish people. May they and Yeshivot B'nai Akiva go from strength to strength. I want to thank Ambassador Prosor of the Israel Mission to the United Nations, who has come tonight to grace us with his important words and for everything he does for Israel and the Jewish people in the international body. I especially want to thank all the honorees and Menachem Bar Shalom and Ebba Leibowitz for all the hard work they've put into tonight to make this evening the success that it is. And Chazak v'nit chazek.
As a little boy who grew up in Israel and went to a school, it's called Midrashiyat Noam, Pardes Chana, I met many classmates, friends who belonged to Bnei Akiva. And I met many Bnei Akiva who basically are the leaders of the state of Israel. You can see them in every kind of sectors, whether in journalism, whether in the politics, whether in business. And basically, the Ashkafa of Bnei Akiva, of Dati Leumi, Merkaz Harav, Rabbi Cook, I believe in this Ashkafa.
Well, firstly, my father is my role model, and he served in the IDF for 3 years. He told me a lot of stories about the Army, and I wanted to go through what my father had gone through. Secondly, I volunteered because of my strong background and connection to Israel. Ever since I was a baby, I'd been to Israel almost every year. It has always been my dream to eventually serve in the IDF. I felt obligated to serve my country, even though I live here, because my heart is in Israel, and I thought I could contribute like every single Israeli. I volunteered because of my love for Am Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael, and Torat Yisrael.
I was placed in the Kfir Brigade in Unit 90. It's called Nachshon, named after Nachshon ben Aminadav. So with that name comes a lot of responsibility. We have to be courageous. Nachshon, we were always first. And I was in Machlaka Achad. Machlaka Achad, in the first, it was in my unit, in my platoon. I was lucky, privileged to be placed with Bnei Yeshiva. The Bnei Yeshiva, they are really the backbone, I believe, of the IDF. These guys, they're the ones who come, they motivate, they inspire, and they are the leaders of the IDF. Out of the 12 guys who I started the training with in my kita, with the religious guys, 8 of them went to become commanders.
When I heard my brothers had these great experiences with the Banish unit, I really got very interested in going to the Army and specifically going to the Banish unit. And after time, I'm just very excited next year in 2014, hopefully be serving in the Israeli Army in the Banish unit under the supervision and hashgacha of Bnei AFYBA.
The main reason of the evening for Bnei AFYBA dinner is, from my point of view, is to raise money for a library on the name of Talia. Who's Talia? Talia is my daughter, and she was 9 years old. She had a brain tumor and she passed away. And I decided 11 years ago to open a new restaurant, Glad Kosher, in the Upper West Side, which is Talia Steakhouse. MDS has a library, it's called Talia Hebrew Library. And I decided that for this evening, which is fundraising for Yeshivot Bnei AFYBA, to recruit my friends and families to come to this dinner so they can contribute to create a library in one of the Ulpana, one of the girl Bnei AFYBA institutions in Israel. And that's basically, after that, what we're doing here at Talia Steakhouse, I will feel that I will be very happy to have.
Thank you for this moment to speak about my husband of 14 years, Dr. Bernard Burak, and his affectionate relationship with Pirkei Aaron. May his memory be especially for this particular blessing of a biology laboratory at the school. Married 14 years, Bernard left me his legacy regarding Pirkei Aaron when he died last September. He knew I would proudly commit to his endowment of a biology laboratory for the boys' high school. As namesake of Pirkei Aaron, Rabbi Aaron Burak is still remembered as a professor of Torah studies at Yeshiva University and as rabbi of Hevra Moshe Thilim Synagogue here in New York. However, it was his leadership as a Zionist that earned him the State of Israel's honor of the name taken from the title of his book compilation of sermons, The Flowers of Aaron, as designated in 1960 for the new school in his memory. To Bernie, the school wall inscription of Pirkei Aaron signified all that was his personal witness as eldest son to his father's significance in the drama of 20th century Judaism. It is particularly fitting now that Dr. Burak's name will be in tribute in his field of science at the same place. Bernie found his vocation to become a doctor as a child during a protracted recovery in a hospital from an accident. Dr. Burak was a distinguished practicing cardiologist, teacher, and author for 54 years here in New York. I asked him just prior to his passing, Bernie, what was the most important thing to you in your life? And without hesitation, he emphatically stated, work. His vocation was the heart of his life. As I see it at any B'nai Akiva school, the lovely balance of academic and religious studies can inform students that now's the time and here's just the place to listen for and then recognize what the personal blessing of a vocation means. A vocation, not a job, promises by faith a fulfilling life of purpose. A student who finds his calling discovers there's a future to look forward to and an optimistic view that life will be rewarding. There could be no happier high schooler teacher than one whose students sought and leave knowing their vocation. When anything is blessed, it comes to pass and will last. Whatever is ordained will turn out well and grow into something more than imagined. This is my hope and prayer for this bequest and all the purposes of the American Friends of Yeshivot B'nai Akiva here and in Israel. I look forward to meeting everyone who will help make this classroom, the Dr. Bernard and Nancy Burak Biology Laboratory, a reality. It will be exciting new ground to grow flowers of future doctors and scientists who found their vocation there.